Okay, welcome back to episode 2 of the Fantasy Chancer. Niall has been given another night off, but his good friend and associate Darren is here with me today. How are you, man?
I'm all good, Maurice. How are you, pal?
Good, good, good. We're going to go through your fantasy football team as it stands at the moment. And because I know, like, even with mine, I've been making some changes here and there, and you're probably going to do the same. So we'll probably have this chat again before it all kicks off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's, you're making running changes as teams are making signings and stuff like that, and I was putting one player in last week and I couldn't put him in because he played for Liverpool and I'd already three Liverpool players. It was Neco Williams, and obviously he left and I could get him in then as a Forest player, and so there'll be a bit of chopping and changing maybe before we kick off eventually.
Yeah, I got him in myself. I think like 4 million, he's surely going to be playing every week as well,
And he's got a lot of quality. The kid, he really, really has. His delivery is excellent. And Forest, I think, especially at home, will cause a lot of teams troubles.
Yeah, I was thinking the same when Pereira left United as well. I was like, he's gone straight in my team because I think he's
He'll
got
do okay at Fulham. Yeah.
yeah, I think he's got something there. But anyway, let's kick into your team and who you've picked and why you've gone with them. So we can start off with the goalkeeper anyway.
Yeah. So typically what I've done with the goalkeepers is I put in a fee of 9 million that I wanted to spend on both my keepers. One of my keepers is probably going to sit in the bench week to week. So that'll be the cheaper of the two options. He's somebody that maybe, if one of the better keepers gets injured, will go in and fill a void and is at a team where he might pick up a few points. So then I left myself 5 million, which I think there's only three goalkeepers in the game that are more expensive than five.
Yeah.
I know Allison, Ederson, and Hugo Lloris, I think, are 5.5. So then it was about picking the best of the rest. I've gone with Ramsdale for the minute because I think Arsenal's opening few games aren't too tough. They're not too taxing. So I think I've gone with Ramsdale. He had a great season last year. I'm a big fan of his. And I think in the first couple of weeks, he could pick up a few points, a couple of clean sheets, hopefully.
Yeah, and that being said as well, like I think even though Arsenal sometimes don't keep a lot of clean sheets, he will make a lot of saves though as well, which can add up the points as well.
Absolutely. And he's pretty good for a penalty save as well every now and again. So that can be
Yeah.
a nice little boost.
Right, let's have a look at the back three that you've gone for to start with.
Yeah.
Perisic, do you reckon he's definitely going to be playing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's that left wing back option for Spurs. I think it'll be Perisic on the left, and you'll have Jed Spence on the right, and then you'll have your three centre backs, Clement Longlawn. You'll have Romero, possibly the boy Dyer,
Yeah.
or Davis as the left centre back. They'll swap and interact and stuff. But I think Perisic has had a couple of good seasons at Inter. He's still got a lot to give. I think he'll get up and down that wing. His delivery is pretty good. He has an eye for goal. He can tuck in sometimes and stuff like that. And I think those wing back positions at Spurs are going to be huge. I think that's where maybe I can pick up a few points.
Yeah, and actually Spence's price was revealed today and he's only 4 million.
Yeah, so he's going to be a great option for the bench, I think.
Yeah.
Like that, where you can put him in. I wanted to, with my defenders, basically the way I play the game is I want to get fullbacks or wing backs in, that you can
Assists.
get the option of goals, assists, and clean sheets from them. So I pick a lot of those kind of players. I don't tend to put centre backs in, and then with the likes of, I want to put three guys in that are going to play, and I'm going to put two really low options in on the bench at 4 million apiece, so I can use the larger sum to get as much out of those three players, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And the next one is a very interesting one because of what may happen with this player.
Yeah, so I'm a massive fan of the boy Cucurella. I was, even when he was in Spain and stuff like that. He was at Getafe before he came to Brighton. He's obviously came out of the La Masia at Barcelona as well. So the kid's a baller. He really is. He was superb for Brighton last year. He was Brighton's Player of the Year. He was probably outside of one or two left backs, the best left back in the Premier League, and that's even outside. That's even including the big teams. So
Yeah.
he's really impressed me. I think if the move to City happens, and I think if that's confirmed, like, I only see this kid getting better and better and better under Pep Guardiola. I really do.
And you reckon he's going straight into the team when they sign him?
I think if they sign him, you're going to get Cancelo as the right back and Cucurella as the left back with two of the three centre back options going in there. I think that's out of the role.
Yeah. And Reece James obviously done well last season. Got a lot
Yeah,
of points in the bag, mostly
yeah.
for assists though.
Mostly for assists. He does have an eye for goal rechange as well.
Yeah.
And with the boy Mendy behind you, you've got a chance at a couple of clean sheets. Obviously, Koulibaly is coming as well. You've got Thiago Silva, and Chelsea are probably maybe looking at another centre back, maybe the boy Kunde or somebody like that. So I think they're going to try and tighten it up, and they're going to try and work on clean sheets first, and then pick goals off as they get higher up the pitch. But I think James has done unbelievably well for Chelsea, and I think he's in that kind of a Trent and Cancelo bracket, but without their fantasy price, because the boys are obviously a lot more expensive.
Yeah. Did it ever come into your mind? Because I used to have Alexander Arnold in my team all the time, but the likes
Yeah,
of him and Robertson now, it's too much of an investment, isn't it, for a defender?
yeah, it's massive. It means then you're taking a huge hit up in your midfield and your forward positions, and they tend to be like the midfield for me is where I'm going to look to try and pick up a lot of points, because obviously your midfielders they can score on the double. They've got the bonus points for the goals, because obviously they're 5 for a goal instead of 4. They've got the
Yeah.
assists. They're typically quite creative, and they can also get points for bonuses from clean sheets. So they're really like the midfielders are so important in this.
Yeah, yeah, because they get points on both ends of the pitch as well, which is a
Yeah,
great point. Right, let's move on to the midfield. Interesting.
yeah.
Son.
Son, for me, it's a straight shootout for him or Salah. But again, not having enough money in reserves, because of what I went with my forward line, it kind of meant I had to put Son in ahead of Salah. Now, again, I think Son, you've got goals, you've got assists, you've got work rate, which gives him the option of those bonus points later on in the game, and you've got clean sheets. I think all of those are really, really high up on the list at Spurs this season. And he was so good last year. I expect the same again, if not better, if I'm honest.
I was kind of flipping between him and De Bruyne as we were talking there a couple of weeks ago, and the one thing
Yeah.
I said to you is Son is never really injured, is he?
No, he plays an awful lot of football. De Bruyne is always, he's always good for a knock or two a season, isn't he? Or a little
Yeah, for
tear or a
sure.
strain or stuff like that. Like I think De Bruyne is amazing. I really, really do. I think at times he probably sits a little bit deeper than I would like. A guy that's so creative and stuff like that. I'd just like to see him a little bit further forward. I think kind of City playing just in front of, the Rodri or the Calvin Phillips, as well as it might be this season. They play him like as a 6 maybe, rather than as an 8, or a little bit higher up the pitch as a 10 even. I think if you
Yeah,
thought he was going to play week to week as a 10, you'd have to have him in your team. With how creative he is, and with how well he strikes the ball from 20 to 25 yards.
maybe it could be a thing with age as well that maybe he's going to drop further back the pitch as he goes along. And I seen an interesting thing.
Yes, exactly, as the legs start to go a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, he's the only player left there since 2016. I read the other day,
Right. Okay.
since
Yeah. So
Pep was there.
he's definitely brought kind of longevity in. He's been super for City. Really, really has. Like when he's on the pitch, just anything can happen. We've seen it time and time again with him at City. He's definitely someone. Depending on form and injuries, I will look at throughout the season. You've
Yeah,
got Son, obviously. If you're taking Son out, you have the option of maybe a Salah or a De Bruyne, and I'll probably move between those three most of the season.
yeah. But instead of Salah, you went for this Liverpool man, Luis Diaz. You're expecting
I
big things this year.
I'm expecting massive things. I mean, I think with Mane obviously leaving the building, I think that creates a huge, huge gap for Diaz. Like when he came in January, I don't think any of us expected him to hit the ground running the way he did. And he got involved so quickly. I think the only thing for me he was missing was end product. Whereas I think he'll bet himself in now in the preseason, and I think come August and September we'll start seeing those goals and assists. And I think value wise, he's really, really good value. I think two of the guys I've gone with in midfield, Diaz is one. I mean, for 8 million, I think he's a phenomenal value. And I
Yeah,
think if you've got a guy in at 8 million, that allows you a little bit extra, again, higher up the pitch where you think you'll get those goals.
yeah. The next two players would not be two players that I would consider putting in my team, but I know you've got your reasons and I want to hear them.
Yeah, so for me, I think Zaha has that big fish in that small pond. And I think at
Yeah,
Palace, everything goes through him. And if you look at his fantasy scores over the last couple of years, he's pretty much always in around 150 points. And for 7 million, there's not many other players around that will guarantee you that many goals. And he also takes the penalties and stuff like that. So it's another little, if they win any penalties at Palace as well, he'll pick up there as well. They have picked up quite a few clean sheets last season. And again, he gets the little bonus from that as well, the little bump. But I think Zaha will be really, really high up the pitch this season. And they're going to have to almost put more through him because they maybe don't have the likes of Conor Gallagher there. He's obviously headed back to Chelsea for now until we see what happens. He's a guy, if he made a move, Gallagher, I would love to try and get in again. Because value-wise, you're probably going to get a lot of value out of him for his price,
And he racked up the points last season.
And then I suppose Rashford for me, again, he was the one with Diaz. It was like value for money. Like in the game, you're talking about Son, I think, was at 12 million. And Diaz was 8. Zaha was 7. And Marcus Rashford is 6.5 million. I'm expecting a huge, huge season from Marcus Rashford under Erik ten Hag. I really am. I think the boy was devoid of any kind of confidence last season. But I think prior to that, if you look 18 months back, he was a massive player at United. There was goals, there was assists, there was work rate. And I think already I kind of didn't have him in the reckoning to begin with. But even just seeing him in the first kind of 3 pre-season friendlies, I've gone, you know what? This kid's getting much closer to the Marcus Rashford we know, and we know is in there and is kind of fighting to get out. I think Erik ten Hag's going to get an awful lot out of him. I think at 6.5 million, if he can rack you up 150 plus points, I think he's a bargain.
Yeah, his valuation obviously has dropped significantly then over the last few years, because I couldn't imagine him being that price, we'll say 2 years ago.
2 years ago, we were paying 9 million for Marcus Rashford. Now we're paying 6.5. And the same footballer is there, and with a tactical coach who knows how to play football. Like I watch United today, everything was one touch, everything was quick, everything was sharp. That's when you're going to get the best out of Martial's, Sancho's, Elanga's, Rashford, all those guys. So I'm happy enough at 6 million there. And again, it allows me that bump higher up the pitch, or maybe it allows me to get the likes of a Reece James in, where maybe I might have had to have, a Kieran Trippier or a Luca Digne and stuff like that, someone who was a good fullback, but maybe not the quality of Reece James.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Elanga myself, but then I don't know under Ten Hag what way it'll go,
He's 5.5 million. He's phenomenal value if he gets game time.
That's what I was curious about.
He has been involved already in pre-season. I think with Elanga, you might need to give it a couple of weeks, the first 2-3 weeks. And I think there's a lot of guys after 3 or 4 weeks end up playing that wild card. I think when people decide to play that wild card, he's definitely somebody that will come into the reckoning, because he was probably one of the standouts for United last season, certainly in the outfield positions, other than Ronaldo and maybe David De Gea, he was up there. And for 5.5 million, he scores goals, he creates goals. His work rate's phenomenal, So yeah, I think he's a good option as well.
Yeah, we're going to have a look at the front 3 that you've gone for. Okay. Self-explanatory, the first one, really, isn't it? Except I said to you before, I would be worried maybe if he did pick up an injury or two.
Yeah, I think there's the injury thing, because he's obviously carried a couple of knocks over the last number of years at Dortmund and missed quite a lot of football.
Yeah.
He has. I think the Premier League, you've got to be really, really robust for that. And I don't know if he'll have that initially. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play the first 3-4 games, maybe take a knock and maybe not see him for a couple of weeks. That wouldn't surprise me. Again, with City, I think they've enough in their arsenal to kind of keep going. You look at them last season, they played the false 9. They did the job amazingly well. I think with Guardiola now, he's so clever. They are building from the back. So it's clean sheets City are still looking for and searching for. And I think they've always got enough on the pitch to nick a goal every now and again. I think Haaland, for me, he actually was a tougher choice than I think most people would believe. Because, again, I see him maybe not playing some of the smaller games. Like when they're home to Forest, I don't expect Haaland to start, if I'm honest. I think they'll go false 9 and I think they'll go Julian Alvarez. I don't necessarily think we'll see him at home against the likes of a Forest or stuff like that, or a Fulham or a Southampton. I think we'll see him in all the big games. He'll play 2 against United, 2 Liverpool, 2 Chelsea, 2 Spurs, 2 Arsenal, 2 Leicester, stuff like that, provided he's fit. And I think with those games and with the Champions League games, I think it'll be a really tough season for him to kind of bed in. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the absolute best of Haaland in his first season in England.
Yeah, and the man beside him then, I was watching a couple of preseason games. He's been fairly sharp in those preseason games, and his attitude seems to be in the right place. And I looked at it and I said, right, this guy is going to play, if he's fit and available, he's probably going to play 38 games this season in the league for Arsenal, no doubt.
Absolutely. And I mean, the great thing about him is, if he plays 38 games, you're going to get 38 games where somebody's going out and is working their absolute socks off for you. Like, at times, the finishing and things like that, he can blow a little bit hot and cold, but his work rate from a striker or from somebody who plays really high up in that front line is phenomenal. I think he got 2 goals and 2 assists on the debut, didn't he? And then he picked up another goal and assist there in the last day or two. I think he'll play lots of games. I think he'll be involved. He's got the likes of Martinelli, Odegaard, Vieira, Saka, Smith Rowe, all around him. So not only will he have service, but he'll also be able to bring guys like this into the game. And it only takes one touch and to pop the ball off to somebody on the 18 line, and you've got that 3-point bonus, I think he's a must-have in the team. I think he's a really good price as well.
8 million, yeah.
I think he's a really good price. I really do. I think him and Diaz for 8 million apiece are, they're guys that it's very, very difficult to leave out of your team.
Yeah, and the next one then, Darwin Núñez, a guy you were talking with Niall the other day. You wouldn't be surprised if this guy is top scorer this season.
Yeah, and I suppose a lot of people are going to kind of have a little giggle at that after seeing how he's gone so far in pre-season.
Pre-season means fuck all.
It does, but I mean, people are still willing to judge. I know United fans who've seen him, have bad games, maybe against United and against Palace, and straight away jumped on the bandwagon. Delighted we didn't sign that guy, and stuff like that. And you're thinking, wow, back here now, he's still learning how to fit into a team. He's probably still coping with, the change in the style of football, the language. There's so many things he's got to adapt to. Yeah. But I think with Diaz, with Salah, with the boy Carvalho in behind him, I think he's going to get phenomenal service. And I genuinely think he's in with a great chance of winning the Golden Boot this year. And again, after the 2 games he's had and how poor he's been, people are going to think, what's Darren been at over the last few days? I think this kid's a serious superstar in the making.
I would think that as well. And I think Jesus will actually be up there due to the amount of game time. I think Salah will be up around the mix. And obviously Haaland, if he stays fit, and I think that's the big question mark. But nobody really seems to be talking about that aspect of Haaland, though, which is, I find interesting. They just think he's going to come in, he's going to smash every game, and City are going to run away with the league.
Yeah, and like I can understand it to a degree where he's going into a team that's won some Premier Leagues, and stuff like that. A team that is very successful, gets to the latter stages of competitions. And when you add a goal scorer, which is what they were missing, if you add a goal scorer in like that, people are going to think, oh yeah, this is big business. But I don't think that always translates,
Yeah. And then the subs bench then, if you want to take me through it.
So subs bench, everyone on the subs bench is the lowest possible price in their position. So Fraser Forster, if anything happens, Hugo Lloris. And Lloris, at time to time, can have an injury. If Lloris gets injured, Forster plays. You've got a great opportunity of a couple of clean sheets because of how Spurs are going to play under Conte. And I think from a backup keeper, that's as much as you can expect. I think the boy Nathan Ferguson, he got in a little bit last season at Palace. He's a good player. He's young. I think he'll do well. I think Palace push a lot in those wide positions. They're tight enough at the back for a team in the lower part of the league and stuff. Now, having said that, with what you've just said about Jed Spence and him being 4 million, I may have to make a change there because I'll 100% want Spence in, but that will mean also I have to get rid of Foster because I've got Heung-min Son and I've already got Perisic in my team. So I may have to change Foster to accommodate Jed Spence, who should play a lot of games. And for 4 million, he's a bargain.
Yeah, if you're going with keepers and you have Ramsdale in goals, I'd expect Leno to be joining Fulham, so that'll leave the opportunity at Arsenal if you wanted a cheap goalkeeper there.
Yeah.
If Ramsdale was to get injured.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I hope he doesn't play though. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But
I think Neco Williams is, I think he's as good as a boy for 4 million as you're going to find in the game.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I don't necessarily think Fulham are going to be watertight at the back, although I think they've helped themselves greatly with the addition of Henderson from United. So I think Dean Henderson will do very well there. He's possibly an option as well in the 4 million bracket because he'll play games for Forest, and again he'll make tons of saves.
Yeah, he should.
As he did at Sheffield United. So maybe I could swap Forster out, put Henderson in, and get Spence in for Ferguson, and keep those kind of right backs or wing backs in, that they might get a couple of assists as well. And the last one is the guy Lavia. So this kid has come into Southampton, and he's come for a massive price tag from Manchester City. He played
Oh
very, very
yes.
few games under Pep at City, but they've inserted a buyback clause, and apparently it was the one thing that City insisted on was we'll let the kid go. I think Southampton have coughed up around about £20 million for this kid, but the only thing City insisted on as part of the deal was a buyback option. Now, if Pep Guardiola is letting this kid go, he's hardly kicked the ball for City in the first team. They've already got 20 million out of it, and they've insisted on a buyback clause. That tells me enough about this kid, and he will play games at Southampton. And we know at times Southampton under Ralph can be very, very good,
Yeah.
So, and he's 4.5 million, and as midfielders go, that's as cheap as they come in the game.
Yeah, and buyback clauses is just something we're seeing a lot of lately, aren't we?
Yeah, they are. I think more so when teams are kind of a little bit maybe they don't want to let the guy go, but they know that the loan deal isn't going to work for them and stuff like that, because they're maybe going to still end up with them back at their door. And if it doesn't have a good loan deal, that all of a sudden the value plummets as well. So I think if somebody comes in, if a Southampton comes in and they're trying to pick from the Man City academy, and they offer 16 to 20 million for this kid, City have to take their hand off, because that runs that academy for another couple of seasons, And what it enables City to do is then also is to reinvest in more of those young lads and progress them to the point that they maybe can make another cash deal and get money in for the club. It's very, very clever.
Yeah, City have actually done well in kind of balancing the book somewhat this summer, and I don't know if that's on purpose or it's just the way things fell, but they seem to have swung it back a little bit in that sense anyway.
I think they've looked at it, and I think they're trying to make themselves a little more sustainable, with the model and stuff like that. Now, it's taken a while to get to this stage, because obviously when the Sheikh came in to City, they didn't have this academy. They didn't have all these wonderful youth players, whereas now they do. Obviously Bazunu left. He's gone to Southampton as well. About 14 million. And I think the boy Lavia is somewhere between 16 and 20. That's 35 million for two of their academy players. You talk about Zinchenko heading out for 32 million to Arsenal. That's 65 million. If I'm
And
right, they
Jesus
paid
45 as
70
well.
and 45 for. If I'm right, they paid 70 something for Haaland.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've already covered that, and then Jesus goes out. You're covering the price of Calvin Phillips. Sterling goes out. You're probably covering the price of Cucurella. Like, City could actually make money from this transfer window and have picked up Cucurella, Haaland, Phillips, and Julian Alvarez, and the boy that they got, Ortega, the goalkeeper.
Yeah, if any other squad had lost those players, they would definitely suffer. But Man City, you just seem to have all angles covered in terms of replacements and everything as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a story for you and Niall. We're here to talk about nerdy stuff, and nerdy stuff we shall continue. Yeah, and nerdy stuff we shall continue to talk about. But for anyone that hasn't joined the league yet, that is the code down there on the bottom. It's U2E7KY, and you'll find us there. I'll have a quick look now and see how many people we have in there. Leagues. Let me see.
I don't even think I've joined myself yet.
No, you haven't. We've
So
only
I gotta
got
do that.
we've only got 4 in there at the moment. We need at least 20 to make this thing interesting, shake it up a little bit. So
Absolutely.
if you want to join it, the code is there. Darren, thanks for talking to me today. We're going to do this again right before kickoff. Probably on the night where the Arsenal Amazon documentary lands, which is the day before the season.
That's the Thursday, is it?
Yeah.
Should be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Thanks, pal.